What's up, fellas? How are y'all?
What's going on?
Doing good, doing good.
So I've been trying to get you on for quite a while now.
Yeah, but we've been talking about this for years and years and years.
I
but,
know.
I didn't want to do it without Beau because he's my man.
So it's interesting now because you were kind of, I guess, the first stair step into everything that's happened down here with getting these guys here and the development of this, I guess. But you were down here as a younger man working.
Oh yeah, I was born 2 blocks from here and raised up in a duplex shotgun house on Arcadia Street. And my dad was 53 when I was born, and my mother was 42. She went to the gynecologist, which was in this building here, the doctor. And the doctor said, how's it going, Miss Tubbs? And she says, well, this menopause is making me nauseous. And the rabbit died, Miss Tubbs, so I was a surprise. She didn't have menopause, she had me. But yeah, I grew up down here. So I remember seeing it before I-20. I mean, the big trucks would come through here. There was a traffic light on every corner. And if you had to cross the street, there wasn't no jaywalking. You had to go to the actual traffic light and wait for your turn to go, because there was so much commerce, so much traffic going on down here. Every building down here had something in it. Norris's grocery store, Barksdale Drug, Olson's barbershop. The buildings we're in now, there was a doctor's office. Dr. McCullough started off here. There was a dentist office in here. So I did some crying in my younger years here with tooth being pulled. And
Yeah. BeauxJax was the movie theater, right?
It was.
Yeah.
It was a movie theater. I had pictures of it in my office as a movie theater. So
That's crazy.
that was pretty cool.
So that's interesting because you walk in there, you can tell because it's right here next door, the second story, and you can tell that it used to be, I guess, a screen room.
There was a
maybe.
projector, yeah. And they had the projector. Me and Vince Maggio, we'd come down here and sneak in the movies and everything.
Well, it was like Charlie Chaplin movies back then, for real.
I don't know. I can't remember. I was so young and everything back then. But I do remember the movie projector, and the hole might still be in the wall there where the movie projector shot out. And they would be dentist offices and doctor's offices and all up here, but the movie thing was still right there in the middle. So they were conducting business while they were showing movies.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I heard a story, and I guess this was Dutch Fenton's granddaughter, said that all the big names here in town, like the Arthur Teague and basically everybody who all the streets are named after,
Right.
they would send their kids to the movie theater, and then they were all in the pharmacy room in the Barksdale drugstore drinking moonshine together, and that all of them would get in trouble all the time. Like,
I can believe that. I can believe that. Yeah, it was a lot of commerce going on down here, and I'm so blessed that I grew up in the '60s, and me and Vince talk about it all the time. How this was the place to be. I lived here so that nobody had to drop me off. Vince grew up over there on Thompson Street, so his daddy would come drop him off, and they'd go into Holmes Hardware, and that they'd go into Tickle Brothers, and National Bank of Bossier started there. So BB&T, Bossier Bank and Trust. So I mean, I could just keep going on and on and on. I mean, it was just active, and then I actually got to witness it decline. And it was
What year was that?
Well, it started declining in the latter 70s, and things started moving more northward up there. So there was a lot of decline in the latter 70s. Then the 80s, it got pretty rapid decline. And that's whenever I said, the city hall has moved. It was only me and little Italiana down here. Me and Claudio would meet in the middle and just talk about, Lord, how are we going to stay in business?
So you had the hardware.
I had the hardware store, yeah.
Well, let's talk about that before we get too far off. So how did you, from you growing up down here and then getting into the hardware, like how did that happen?
Okay, well, me growing up down here, I was just a little poor kid down here. My dad was worked at Silver Service out there at Barksdale, and my mother worked in a little grocery store. and there was an ice manufacturing plant there that my uncle owned, and he owned the grocery store. And a lot of people think that my parents owned the ice plant and grocery store. They just worked there, and I just worked there. And so I got a lot of education and working the ice dock, learning how to help customers and just being involved with business. I actually sold watermelons there on the dock as a little bitty kid. And I'm talking like 7, 8 years old. So got a lot of experience just interacting with the public and a lot of commerce and everything going on. So to jump forward just a little bit, my dad died when I was a teenager. And my uncle died that had the ice plant. So his boys came in and just liquidated everything. So my source of income had left. So if I was going to have anything, a ball glove, baseball bat, tennis shoes or anything, I had to work for it. So I walked across the street and I asked Mr. Holmes. It was Holmes Hardware now, where you have the chef's table is there. And I walked into Mr. Holmes and he was very sad for me. He says, I understand, Little Tubbs, your dad died. And I said, yeah. And I said, Mr. Holmes, I need something to do. The ice plant's locking up and everything. And he says, well, Little Tubbs, he says, come to work for me after school. So I did. And I worked for him for a number of years. And then I went to work at the fire department when I was 18. And I remember I was so proud when I came in and told Mr. Holmes that I got a job at the fire station. And he basically said, hey, we got plans for you. I'm kind of short-living. I'm kind of bundling the story up a little bit. But anyway, I ended up, they said they wanted to sell me the store. And I said, how are you going to do that? I don't have 2 nickels to rub together. He said, we're going to owner finance it to you. So he owner financed me the store. And then a few years later, Mr. Tickle came in. Mr. Tickle owned property down here. And we were actually renting and everything from the buildings. And he says, Little Tubbs, he said, it's decaying down here. It's rough down here now, but you can handle it. I'm too old to handle it. And he said, I'm going to sell you the property. And I said, how are you going to do that? I don't have 2 dimes to rub together.
Yeah, same business plan you gave us.
Right. So anyway, that's how I ended up buying property down here.
Okay. And how long did you run the store here before you moved and started, and I guess, changed the name and all that stuff?
Well, Mr. Holmes came to me one day. I'd run the store for a couple of years under Holmes Hardware, and Mr. Holmes loved to play golf. He played golf with Mr. Tickle. That's how I ended up buying the property. And he found out Mr. Tickle had sold me the property. And he come down here, and he always looked up at me. He was not a very tall man. He looked up at me, and he said, Little Tubbs, he says, you're doing a good job down here. Take my name off the building. You have earned the right to have your name on the building. And see, that it started off in 1922 as Sibley Hardware.
Okay.
And then Mr. Holmes bought it from Mr. Sibley in 1949. And then in 1979, Mr. Holmes, that group, they sold it to me in 1979. And I've had it since 1979.
So it's essentially been the same. It's developed into what you've developed in now, but it started then and just transitioned from generation to generation, I guess.
Right. Yeah. It's always been owned by hometown local folks.
Right.
And when I had the property down here, I found out what leveraging was. I found out what equity was. I didn't even know what the word equity meant. Well, I had equity from buying the property, and I leveraged that property to buy the property where I'm at now at 615 Benton Road, across from the City Hall. And this store has always been associated with the City Hall. People would call up on the old rotary phones and, where are y'all located? Oh, you got to find, you know where the City Hall of Bossier is? Oh, yeah. Well, we're kind of diagonal across the street from them. So when the City Hall moved, I had saw that property across the street from there, and I go, wait a minute, I got to still be associated with City Hall. So I moved the store there.
So that
in
was
1985.
That was the deciding factor to do that.
Yeah, it made it a no-brainer for me because I always wanted to be associated with City Hall. Now they put the Civic Center next to it, so there's always gun shows, coin shows, some sort of event going on there that draws traffic flow for me. And then that's where Mardi Gras began. Whenever they had the first Mardi Gras there, the first Mardi Gras parades, everything started right there. So people ask me, how the heck did you get the idea to have a Cajun Gift Mardi Gras store in a hardware store? And I said, well, all the events were going on across the street that were Mardi Gras related. And people were coming in asking where to get souvenirs, Cajun gift items and all like that. And I'm an entrepreneur. If you ask me a number of times for something, I mean, to this day, if somebody came in the store frequently enough and asked me, do you have ladies' pantyhose, I'd have a display in the store. You know, I'm there to serve the customer.
Yeah.
You're the only hardware store that I know of that has tour buses full of people showing up.
We're very blessed and very honored that, you know, at one point, I told them don't do this again, but at one point we had 5 tour buses at once. So I have them call me now where we stagger them out during the Mardi Gras season because there were so many people in the store, you couldn't move.
Yep.
I didn't know that. That's crazy how that worked. But also, it's interesting, like what you've developed. You have a very unique concept, and I know that's how a hardware store used to be, but you still have it that way. Like when you walk in, someone's immediately asking you, "Hey, what can I help you with?" And hey, and everyone knows exactly where everything's at, you know, and like you don't see that. Like you don't see that anywhere, you know. You dang sure don't see it at Home Depot or Lowe's.
Well, Mr. Holmes, whenever he stayed a few days to help me out and everything, but his wife had a brain tumor and he was ready to get out and everything. He had other things to do. And I said, Mr. Holmes, how am I going to know how to run this store? What to stock, what to do? And he handed me a little piece of paper and he put it in my front pocket. I still carry a little piece of paper around with me today. And he said, Little Tubbs, you're in the people serving business. What people come in here asking you for, they will tell you how to run your store. Just be attentive to what people are asking you for and stock it appropriately based on what their needs are. And we've done that. And now we're a wild and crazy place because people ask me for some crazy stuff.
Well, how did you two guys cross paths? What happened there?
So BeauxJax, we kind of had an opportunity presented to us from Rick Avery, and I think he owned the only piece of this little block here that Don didn't own.
Me and Vince. Let's keep Vince in there too.
Yeah. It's but we just kind of jumped in, kind of same story as you. We had no idea what we were doing, and we kept trying to figure out the tenants that were here. I think there were a couple here that we were trying to mesh with and trying to figure out what the vision for Open Container was. Was everybody on the same page? And I think the first time I went and talked to Don, he's like, I don't know who you guys are. Y'all are on a food truck. He looked at us kind of like everybody else who looked at us.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Like, what made you trust, to help these guys out? Because that's a leap of faith.
Well, it didn't happen at once.
Yeah.
It didn't happen at once. When they first came, I was pretty busy there in my office, and you can come to my window there and see me and visit with me. So it's not like I have a closed door. I got a window there you can talk to me through. And him and Peanut were there, and I still call him Heavy, but Doug played a role in it too. And they just come to the window and they just look kind of pitiful.
We were pitiful.
Look kind of lost. And so they had this wild idea about having a restaurant down here, and I've heard all sorts of ideas down here. At the time, we had a cabinet shop here at one time, and we had people that would rent the buildings from us, but they really didn't need traffic flow because there was no traffic flow to speak of anyway. It was a decaying part of town. But we always had a little revenue that helped us pay the notes and everything. So they came to the window, and I'd heard all sorts of stories before. And I just looked at them and I said, okay, tell me your vision. And they shared it with me, and I was like, okay, these guys don't have two nickels to rub together. Should I be able to trust them? And eventually they just kept coming back and coming back. And one day, I was in a real hurry to go to a hardware show in Las Vegas. And at that time, my son, Kenneth, he had just come to work in the store. He'd worked for Halliburton for years. And I said, I'm going to take you to a hardware convention where you can see what it's about, how we buy, what we do. And so I was in a real hurry because there was a lot of things I had to get done to be able to go to the Vegas show. And they came to the window, and Doug was with them, and I said, guys, I don't have time for y'all. I don't have time for y'all. I'm in a hurry. I'm going to Vegas in the morning, and I'm in a hurry. And Doug said, you're going to Vegas? And I said, yeah. And he says, he wrote down on the back of some sort of paper or card or something like that. And he says, you need to go see this place in Vegas because this is our business model for axe throwing. I said, this is the place that you want to bring alcohol to and throw axes in my building that I could be liable for? And he says, yeah. And so I took the paper and I put it in my wallet, didn't think anything about it. Well, I was teaching Kenneth how to work the show quickly because you could stay there for days and not see everything. So I was teaching him, and I said, man, we made good time. It's just 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I reached in my wallet, and I got this address out. We went out to a cab, and I said, take me here. And we go into that place that Doug, y'all had told me about, the axe throwing place. And I walked in, and within 5 minutes, I said, Kenneth, this will work.
It's you're absolutely right. We were at the time, we had zero business experience. We were in the same place I think you were in when you were kind of taking over the hardware store. Right. So how am I going to do all this?
80, yeah.
What does this look like? And I think kind of the friendship that Don and I have had over the last almost 10 years now has been based around kind of that spirit. It's like just that entrepreneurial kind of thing. I think anytime you start a business, it is you jump off the cliff and you build the airplane before you hit the ground.
Well, I give Beau a lot of credit because I had a lot of faith in him. Once I started giving him the opportunity to talk to me, I have a lot of faith in him, still do to this day. He had a vision for the restaurant business, and I had a vision for what we could do with this block now that we had achieved open container opportunities. There was a lot of old vacant rental houses back here, and a few that was occupied. I owned them, and we acquired others as time went on. So whenever I saw that I really wanted to work with Beau, I said, wait a minute. We can't stop at this building. We can't stop at the next building. We got to do the whole block. I mean, the entire block from street to street, street to street. All corners of it needs to be an entertainment district. So Beau kind of looked at me kind of funny because he didn't have the capital at the time. And I said, we'll figure it out. Yeah. Just one step at a time.
Like I would say, you were talking earlier about the leverage game. Like leverage is the only way to do that. It's so just to give some people some insight. I think business partners will be okay with sharing this, but it's, when we first moved into BeauxJax, we leased that building, and then I think Rick Avery kind of hit a point where he needed a little more money up front, and so he said, hey, I'll owner finance this to y'all. And we didn't understand that signing a contract for a certain amount, it was about $700,000, and we would pay him over 15 years. Well, in this contract, there wasn't really an early out, so we didn't know that we could take that contract to the bank and say, hey, refinance this for us. And when they did, we went through the appraisal process, and all of a sudden the business is worth on paper twice what we were contractually paying for it. And that created the leverage that we were able to use on frozen Pirogue. We were able to take our profit and loss and Doug's profit and loss and go in together. And I think we had enough collateral collectively that we could do the project to build out frozen Pirogue, which then led to the next one, and we just kind of leveraged our way down the block. And I'll tell you this, at some point, Don stopped talking to us through the window, and he would say, "Hey, come back in this office." And I would say there's been hours and hours that we come in. Don's got a nice couch in his office, and we were lucky enough to have somebody to talk to ask all these questions, because man, we had no clue, man. I'm a server. Peanut was a line cook. We had no business being in business. So that leverage piece is what we had to learn that kind of made all this happen. So when he said, "Hey, we're going to get all the way down the block," you're crazy. But here we are. Like,
and I thank you so much because it just needed to keep being the whole block. I just wanted to see the whole block done. I went to a power equipment convention in Austin, Texas, few years after we was working this and everything, or wasn't even a few years, it wasn't too long after that. But anyway, I was in Austin, Texas, and there was a beer garden that the reps wanted to take me to. So we went to this beer garden, and you walked through the restaurant area, and then there was a beer garden in the back, and there was a little stage back there where guys had a little band playing and everything, and it was just a true little beer garden. So what I did was I took a video of this and I sent it to Beau, and I said, "This is what we need to put where all those old rent houses are. We need to get rid of all of those and turn it into a big beer garden." And I got a text back from Beau, and he says, "If you'll finance it, we'll do it." Right. And so that's how Hurricane Alley kind of got its start and everything. I mean, this guy and these guys, y'all are amazing, because a few minutes ago, I was thinking about how many years it took to get the block going. Yeah. It didn't take many at all.
No, it didn't. It's which is incredible. I think, when we moved into BeauxJax, the goal was, hey, in 10 years, we feel like we could turn a profit. Because, this was Antique Row before that. And
it was, wasn't it? Yeah, there's antique stores in here, yeah.
Yeah, everybody told us
the Natton
that
family had an antique
casinos
store
will never let traffic come out of the casino. And so we came into it kind of thinking we were in a dead location. But I think all we saw was, man, you're right smack in the middle of the whole metropolitan area. I-20 is right here, and man, all these hotel rooms, like the people are there.
Yeah.
It's just you have to make the right thing to draw them out. And then and this is where we're really similar. It would be nice to say we had this total vision, but it wasn't that. It was just asking the customer, "What do you want? What do you want next?"
One step at a time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and whenever I sent him that little video about a beer garden, and I was down here the other night having crawfish, and they were amazing. They were great, and the staff is amazing. It's just a fun place to be. And I was listening to the band, and it was an 80s band, so I like that. And I was just astounded at the fact how far you brought this place. It's just amazing.
It's a lot of people that brought it there. It's the trick, I think, is probably the same thing you've experienced in business. I'll just say this: when I was a server and I had no money, I thought, man, all these entrepreneurs, all these people who have things, I'll never have access to the knowledge that they have. And I think being on the other side now, kind of looking back on things, I think about just all the people that I bumped into on the way that I would put on a list of like mentorship that I had the wrong concept of. I think about you. I think about Judy Bruce. I think about Jim Malsh. Just people that I thought would never give me the time of day to teach what it is they're learning. But I think there's at least in this town, there's a very fraternity-like culture of entrepreneurs where you recognize when somebody has just jumped out there and thrown it all out there. I think when you open your hardware store, I'm sure you were surrounded by a lot of people who were willing to give you little pieces of information along the way. And that's been the experience for me. It's just that shared fraternity of crazy risk. I think all the people who are entrepreneurs who do well here in town, all at some point were too stupid to not talk themselves out of the opportunity. And then while they jump off that cliff and build that airplane, there's just a bunch of other entrepreneurs that already kind of have their wings that swoop in and help along the way.
Yeah.
Ignorance is a good thing because if I'd have known the struggles and if I'd have known the amount of time and energy that it was going to take to achieve the business goals that God has blessed me with, I'd have been, because I was on the fire department. I mean, I went to the fire chief and I said, Chief, I've worked for you for a number of years now. And he says, yeah. He says, how are you doing managing the hardware store and working at the fire department? And I said, Chief, that's what I come to talk to you about. It was F.M. Smith at the time. He was a legend fire chief over 50 years in this town. I told him, I said, Chief, if you would give me a little time off, I'll get the store running right and I'll come back. But I need some time just to focus in on the hardware store. And he said, Little Tubbs, he says, I'll give you 5 years. 5 years to be hardware man, and then you keep your bunker clothes, still have them today. You keep your uniform, and I'll tell you what station to report to. You just call me, and you won't have to go through the academy again. You just tell me, and you go back to work. So I had a safety net. So I came home and I told my wife at the time, I said, I'm all in. So I went to a hardware market and I bought and I bought and I bought. And at one point she came by the store and she was looking at our debt and everything. And she said, Donnie, do you know how much money you owe? I said, approximately. She says, well, I know it to the penny. You owe $1.3 million. $1,363,000 to be exact. That's how much you owe. And I was like 23 years old. And I remember seeing the panic on her face and everything. And I said, listen, I got a safety net. I can go back to the fire station. I'm going to get this store running right, and I'm going to go back to the fire station. I have a safety net. Don't worry about it. And I also told her something too, praise the Lord, it never had to come true. I said, I turned around and came back and I told her this. I said, filing bankruptcy on $1.3 million, it's the same amount of paperwork. You're going to have to pay the attorney the same amount of money as if it's $100,000.
Yeah, that's a good way to think of it.
So I'm all in.
Yeah.
And I tell people this, that I guess I never got the store running right because I never went back to the fire department.
Yeah.
So, but I had that safety net so I could go back to the fire department.
So what point did you decide not to? Like when you got close to 5, or did you decide 2 years in?
And Beau will attest to this. You guys know this. I was working so dadgum hard. I was putting in so many hours and everything. I didn't know when 5 years was up.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
It's just a blur. But so I have people come in all the time, like want to start a food truck or want to start a restaurant. And for us, we just cut the safety net. I needed the no safety net to generate the drive to do all this stuff. If I had an out like that, I don't think we would have gotten very far. It's the going home and putting my head on the pillow. My number that I owe is now $4.5 million. It's people think it's a cash cow, and it's just, oh, you have all this money.
Right.
It's no, you have a lot of healthy debt that is yours to satisfy no matter what. And so when you go to sleep at night, you don't go all the way to sleep. And it's why you wake up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, it's time to go. Let me tie these shoes and go chip away at this big number. So when I have people come in asking about it, and this may be bad advice. This was my question for you. The only way I know is you cut the net. It's you jump out there and you give it all you have. You have to hit the all in, or you're not going to do it. I think you've done that with a lot of your places.
Yeah.
Like
I have to though. I had to.
Yeah. So maybe it's different for everybody
But
else.
I mean, you did too, because you passed up that safety net.
Well, that is a good point.
Yeah.
I can remember at one point in time, I was walking into the store, turning on the lights and everything, because for 25 years I opened and closed and stayed late and placed orders and put up freight and everything. I've got a really good crew and everything right now, and multiple stores and multiple business ventures. So I've got a good crew. But I can remember turning the lights on, and I'm sitting there kind of waking up, and the coffee hadn't hit in yet. And I remember going, oh, crap, my 5 years is up.
Yeah.
And then I guess I looked down, and I said, there's no safety net now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I remember that feeling.
Yeah. It's hard for a lot of people, especially if they're in like a 9 to 5. I feel like every single person who's in a job they're not satisfied with, they have dreams or aspirations to do something different. And just for some reason they never take that leap. It takes a special type of individual to do it, or it's either you lose everything and you don't have a choice, or you just talk yourself into making a crazy decision to do so.
It's a giant gamble.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a gambler. Like I'll talk to Brian all the time. Brian likes to go to the boat. Like, I can't gamble $5, but it's this type of stuff. I look at it as, hey, this is all I've ever known. God hadn't really shown me another path. That's probably why you got into hardware. It's for me. I started as a dishwasher. I started doing some cooking, doing some serving. Like, all of those things led to the thing. And at some point, you just get tired of doing it for somebody else. Like,
yeah, my grandson came to me the other day, and we were talking, and I guess his parents are talking to him, getting him in the mindset of going to college, and he goes, Pops, I don't know if I want to go to college. Where did you go to college? And I looked at him and I'm thinking, I haven't spent enough time with this kid because he thinks I went to college.
yeah.
My college was the Bossier Ice Plant over here, working with my uncle. His name was J.C. Prunny, and my dad was Buddy Tubbs, Willie Tubbs. People called him different things. And they didn't get along too good because my uncle was a gambler. He really was. I mean, he was going to the back rooms. There was back rooms all over Bossier,
Oh, yeah.
the Strip. He was in the ice business, so we would deliver ice to all the honky tonks. And he could trust me with the money and everything. So I was running routes and everything. Even before I could drive, I had a driver. Tiger Woods, listen, you need a driver. But I would ride around and I would talk to different business people, whether it be a grocery store or honky tonk, all different places, delivering ice and working the dock and all. And that's where I got my education. I mean, there was business people like Mr. Tickle, Mr. Holmes, Paul's Western store across the street, Norris's grocery store, Dutch Fenton, like you talked about. You didn't get much attention. You didn't get much talk from Dutch Fenton. He was a quiet guy.
Yeah.
But however, I would get my hair cut at Olson's barbershop, and I was a weird kid. I would gravitate towards business owners, and they go, Little Tubbs, what are you doing? And I would ask them business questions.
Yeah.
And I look back going, why was I doing that? But this is something I want to share with you, and I'd love that you can put it on the wall one day, because I think, I'm a pretty good BSer, So, but a lot of times, I'll just repeat what I heard from someone else, and they'll think it came from me. I don't give a whole lot of credit to where I heard things from. But this is something that I really believe this is a Don Tubbs thing. I was reading the Bible one Sunday morning. I was focusing in on things, and this was back whenever this was going on, and I was wondering how things were going to work out. And I remember I wrote this down. I still have it today. It's if you ever come to my house, we'll open up the Bible and it's right there. And it says, if God gives you the vision, God will provide you with the provisions.
Yeah.
And he's done that for both of us.
Yep. It's very hard to remember day to day. It's true. Man, I get like, I think Don and I talk in your office all the time about just hiccups that happen in each of our businesses where it's like, oh man, I don't think we're going to make it. It's like, oh, the interstate shut down. It's things like that, stuff that you just could never imagine happening to COVID, things like that.
Yeah.
And
that was a fun time, wasn't it?
it was something. I wouldn't call it fun.
Well, it was getting it. Looking back at it, it was getting it. I remember you saying, at one point you said to me, we can maybe say it now. Couldn't have said it earlier, but at one point you said, how are we going to do this? I said, open them back doors and have speakeasies.
That's it.
Let them come in.
Yeah.
It was
Let
like,
them come in.
Take me to jail.
Yeah.
Like, because it's either go to jail or
lose your business.
$5 million.
What's the difference? No.
But in Tubbs Hardware, we did amazing at COVID because there was no mask. We shook the hands of all the guys that wanted to shake hands, and it was just, it was just business as usual, but we were so busy because the Home Depots was restricting people from coming in. You had to stand in line. But Tubbs was wide open. And you were doing some amazing things down here to keep the revenue flowing.
It's pretty neat to watch God like preload provision. Like when all of those things come, to be like, oh man, I can think back to this time that I saw this one little thing happen in this one little restaurant or at this one little store. And you wonder like why you learn those things along the way. It's like, man, why am I paying attention to this stuff? Right. And then boom, you're in the biggest disaster you could think of, and that stuff is what pops in your brain. It's like, I really believe God is doing the preparing work.
Amen.
You don't know when it's happening, but you're not going to learn that stuff in college.
Right.
No. Yeah. That was good. You said something earlier. I made me thinking to ask you this. So, like, there's probably been hundreds of times you've been presented with a business plan or an opportunity, but a lot of people spend a lot of time on those, but they don't have the gumption to see it through. They'll say, "Hey, we have this idea," but you can have an idea all day longer. Think you want to get into this type of industry, but as soon as you hit a wall, you're like, "I'm out." I think there's only a select few individuals that can see those visions through or those business plans through.
Yeah, I've had several people that worked in my organization and stuff, and they would go, Mr. Tubbs is the finisher. He can get it started, then he gets input from others, he gets help, and sometimes I don't know where the help is coming from. And then I do enjoy making sure things get finished. I can remember when Seventh Tap went in down here, and all was stuff done, and I stood there on the corner and I go, "We're finished," or my part of it.
Yeah. So no, that's a scary place too.
Just turning it over to you, and I tell you, I've learned a lot of stuff from you.
Likewise.
When the cameras are off, I'm going through something right now that Beau gave me some suggestions to a while back. You don't even remember telling me this, but I'm going to put it into play here soon. And I've learned so much from y'all, and I appreciate you so much.
Man, I appreciate you. It's that is the fraternity piece that I really think just comes when you do take that leap, and it's man. It can't be, you can't go into business and live in I'm going to hoard it for me. All my information is mine. All my secrets are mine. like you will rot as a business from the inside
Those people
out.
stay very small, and those people, they can tend to survive, because I know guys like that.
Yeah.
You know, they're just in their own little cocoon, and they survive. You know, they survive. But who wants to get into business just to survive? I was surviving on the fire department.
Yeah.
I wanted to get in business and thrive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, God's been good to me, because there's times that I'm an open book, and then there's sometimes I don't let the left hand know what the right hand's doing.
Yeah,
you have to know those
I'm
things.
really bad at that. Like sometimes I'm too much of an open book, but it is what it is. Like, I'm learning. I'll get there.
So what is it? How do you feel now, like when you walk into these places down here and just look, like from seeing, like, because you were here at one time when everything was thriving, you saw the entire decline, and now you've seen the revitalization. You've been a part of it, but what does it feel like? Because that's there's got to be something that does to your your soul, or just.
Yeah, and I have to give I give a lot of people credit for it. Don Tubbs didn't
Right.
do this, but
But you've seen it.
I do feel like that I've been somewhat of an inspiration down here, and then having the ability to acquire property and do things and trust Beau, and then Beau would bring and put his money into it, and it would just all flourish and go together. But there are times that I come down here and it's just a great sense of pride to know that I've played a small role in this. And then I get a tremendous amount of just being in awe of you guys. How y'all have made this thing work, Beau. It's just amazing, because what is it? How many years has it been since you came to the window?
So we opened BeauxJax in 2018, and I would say that was about halfway, well, maybe the end of that year, right before 2019
I mean,
was when Doug kind of got going with Bayou. So yeah, 2019. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
So it's not even 7 years.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I had a guy ask me the other day, he walked around in the store and he was looking around and he goes, "How long did it take you to achieve all this?" And I said, 50 years.
So-
It's been 50 years for me.
So I have-
7 years for y'all.
I have a question. All right, so you were talking about finishing. So I think we're done growing, at least for us. We're not picking up another concept. This is it. So now it becomes the maintenance piece. So I think you have hit that point with Tubbs Hardware for a while, and you've managed to maintain that for years. So I deal with a lot of fear that, hey, somebody comes along, they have deeper pockets, they duplicate or try to duplicate what we do. It's I think you've dealt with Lowe's and Home Depot moving in the internet like
stage.
that's what is the thing that keeps that drive up or keeps you separating yourself in the maintenance period of your business?
Well, I think there's several things to go with that. There is a point where you've been at it long enough to where that you have a momentum going. And I have told people this several times, that business is like a big boulder that is embedded in mud, and it's going up an incline hill. And you have to push it and push it and push it and push it, and you get it out of the mud, and then you get it and get it and get it, and you're kind of on top of that incline. But you never get to a point in business that you let the boulder do what it's going to do. You have to always control it, push it. Sometimes you got to slow it down. There's a constant move of that boulder. And what you have to do too, and this is the hardest part, this has been the hardest part of sometimes being in business, is you have to master the boredom.
Yeah.
You have to master the boredom. You can't be so much into the excitement of it all that whenever it comes down to just basic maintenance, I mean, I don't want cigarette butts in my driveway. I want the windows to be clean. David Alvis, he's a friend of mine also. He came in the other day, and he says, Tubbs, you keep this place so neat and clean. It's a hardware store. So it's so many things that you have to do to master the boredom. And that would be my advice to you. Only 7 years, it's been a lot of excitement, but just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and then the momentum is there, and you still got to live with the boulder, but the boulder's kind of doing its own thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of rolling, because if business gets to going too fast, it can be a problem too.
Yeah,
and I know you've experienced that.
Well, and I think Brian and I talk about this a lot. Like, I'm like, the big construction projects and the designing and the exciting things go away. And now I feel like we finally are getting the time to go back in reverse, and it's you tighten the little screws. I like to work puzzles all the time. My brain will click off if I don't have a project like that, and I think it gets on some of my partners' nerves how I get so into a project almost obsessively, but I feel like it is to eliminate the boredom side. It's like, man, if we could just tighten controls and food cost and then labor and overtime and
the details. The details have to be paid attention to.
Well, if you just step back and let it go and don't look at it, I mean, how long will it take to blow up? I mean, it's a lot shorter amount of time than what it did for you to take to get there.
Yeah.
Well, I told my daughter one time, she was there in the store, and she's like, Dad, why do you have to be here just all the time? And I said, honey, have you ever worked a vacuum cleaner, a shop vac or anything like that? She goes, oh, yeah. I said, it can be a vacuum, but if your hose gets attached the wrong way, it'll blow all the dirt out, type deal. I said, a business can be a vacuum. It can create income. But if you don't run it right, then it can turn around and be blowing all your income out.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to pay close attention to the business. Now, you said something earlier about, bigger guys, more capital coming in, taking and doing whatever. I've thought about that a bunch. I've become a little bit more, there's things that I can control, and there are things that I can't control. And what happens is, when you're successful in business, other people will look at you and you'll think they're your friends, but they're really jealous. And before you know it, they're imitating what you've done. And they're out there a few blocks from you, a few miles from you, and they're doing whatever you were doing. And they're just imitating what you're doing. And they say that's the biggest form of a compliment, is somebody imitating what you're doing. But it pisses you off, because this was your idea, this was your thing, this is what you wanted to do, and they're just copying that. And that made me mad for a number of years. However, I've noticed, like I sell zero-turn mowers. You can't sling a cat in this town, in Northwest Louisiana, and not hit somewhere that sells zero-turn mowers. Everybody sells zero-turn mowers. I was the first hardware store that got into the power equipment business. And it was a good marriage, because hardware stores, power equipment goes together. It used to be just a hardware store and just a power equipment store.
Right.
It used to be just a lumber yard.
Yeah.
Now it's all kind of together. However, what I have found, I have just kind of released it and said, okay, it is what it is. And I don't use that very often, because I think I'm more of a control freak than that. But I say, it is what it is. And now I'm doing more business than I've ever done before. And everywhere you turn, somebody's selling a zero turn or imitating Tubbs Hardware. So I'm like, okay, just do it. So there's the more the merrier. Okay, McDonald's, Burger King want to be next to each other. Yeah. Then here comes Whataburger. Then here comes Subway, and they're right there together. So, Beau, I would just tell you, don't worry about it. The more the merrier, the more it draws in. And if you're doing what you're doing, if you're paying attention to the details, like I just told you about earlier, the devil's in the details, and people notice things. They notice little bitty things. Is there toilet paper in the bathroom?
Yeah.
Well, just little things can make someone's experience. I had a lady come in the store with her husband a few years ago. They were a very attractive couple, looked like they should have been on a cover of a magazine. And he literally had a yellow pad and a fancy pen. And they had been all over town looking at lawnmowers, zero-turn lawnmowers. So I'm waiting on them. talking to him, getting the right deal. He's making notes like crazy. He's asking me questions. I got to get the owner's manuals out and read. I'm like, nobody's ever asked me this before. I take him back there and I show him my shop, introduce him to my mechanics. I introduce him to my parts people and let him know that we service what we sell. That seemed it didn't matter to him. It was all about that machine itself. So anyway, the lady asked me, she says, where's your restroom? I said, it's right back there to the right. She comes back 5 minutes later, and I'm struggling to answer all these guys' questions that was in such great detail. And she says, honey, she took his pad. She says, take the pad. She took the pad. She said, put your pen back in your pocket. We're buying the lawnmower here.
That's a cozy bathroom. I've been in it.
And so he went, okay. So I told my guys, I said, get this out of a crate, start servicing this out. And he walks off, he goes to the bathroom. And he comes, she says, thank you, Mr. Tubbs. This has been an ordeal. We have been shopping for mowers everywhere for days. And I said, well, why did you be so insistent? She says, because when I went into your bathroom, and it was every bit as clean as my bathroom, every bit as clean as any bathroom I've ever been in. She says, I knew that you would take care of the details if we had a problem with that mower.
Yeah, there you go.
I knew that I would have a good experience in this organization for generations to come. Devil's in the details.
Oh, man, we try to take care of these bathrooms, man.
And master the boredom.
Oh.
People, the other day I was sweeping out there, checking the bathrooms and all, and one of the customers said, the boss man's out there doing that, and one of my cashiers said, oh, he enjoys doing that. That's what he enjoys. And I thought to myself, well, I'm glad I make it look that way.
Yeah. It's I don't enjoy being a spreadsheet guy, but it's got to be done. It's
if you spend all your time in your office.
Yeah.
Kenneth asked me one time, he says, any words of advice? I said, son, the office has to be taken care of. You got to pay the light bill. Mm-hmm. You got to pay your suppliers. You got to pay your people. Just keep in mind, we get the last dollar. The staff gets the first dollar.
Yeah, you are the last to eat.
Yeah, yep. SWEPCO gets the next dollar. Yep. You got to pay the water bill. You got to pay the mortgage. You got to pay this. You got to pay your taxes. The last dollar is what we get. So you got to pay attention to all that. However, there's a lot of stuff in the office that has to be done. Make sure you have a good secretary, and praise the Lord, I do. And I said, but you need to remember that your office is your boots. Mm-hmm. Your boots is your office. You got to be moving around looking, you just got to be involved in your business.
Yeah.
I think one of the ways that we're lucky on this entire block is if we're open a lot more hours than I think Tubbs Hardware. I mean, we're going all night long. We start early in the day, but sure. It's there is not a time that you come to the East Bank and there's not an owner or two present.
Yeah, that's extremely important.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's anywhere that values business or fine dining. You go like somewhere like go see Two Johns. Like someone's going to be there. Go to Ernest. Someone's going to be there. Like
David Apples. You start to know these people.
Yeah,
and
it's very important for the customer to know that too. It's just a sense of okay, well, if they're here, I know stuff's being done correctly. I'm going to get the best possible service.
So you think that's the difference between you and a Lowe's and a Home Depot?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Getting the feedback, being involved. In fact, I hired a new lady not long ago, and she was paging Don line one. And to all my staff, I'm Don. And I come up there and I said, honey, start paging Mr. Tubbs, line 1, line 3, Mr. Tubbs to the front, whatever. Call me Mr. Tubbs on the intercom. And she looked at me and she says, well, that's kind of weird. We call you Don. And I said, no. you will be surprised how many people that will come up and they go, there really is a Mr. Tubbs?
Yeah.
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 You know,
That's
I've
for
always
real.
eaten at Applebee's. I've always shopped at Lowe's. I've never met a business owner.
Where do you pick up all these little details that you just like something like that? Something you learned a long time ago talking these business owners? Or?
One day at a time.
Yeah.
It was one day at a time, and just constantly.
Because that's the smallest thing, but it has so much impact.
Well,
that
that's
one
the
little thing.
feedback piece. If
Yeah.
you're there all the time,
Yeah.
and just like you said, if the customer's telling you what to do, I'm sure you've gotten bad reviews. You've had people tell you you're the biggest piece of crap. Like I mean, you
100%.
hear it, and you're just like, I don't want to be there again.
Yeah.
What?
But you know, if you're not pissing somebody off, and I'm being real serious, if you're not pissing somebody off, you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
You're not accomplishing anything because you're on the fence. You're trying to make everybody happy, and that's not Don Tubbs. Don Tubbs is on one side of the fence, and people know it's on the right side of the fence. You know, so I don't try to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
And I've just learned that there's people out there that want you to fail, and no matter what you do, no matter what you accomplish, no matter what you've done to help them, they're still wanting you to fail. And they're going to be the biggest critic there is. And a lot of it stems from jealousy. You know, Cain killed Abel because of jealousy.
Yeah.
You know, it's strictly jealousy. You know.
And that's such a crazy concept that people can get in that position, because what I'm finding from everybody that I meet that owns a business seems to be, at least who I'm meeting, seems to be of the same mentality that like, hey, I'm out here doing it too. I'm here to help. I don't know. I think back on who all I've known. Like other entrepreneurs tend to help other entrepreneurs more than.
Well, those entrepreneurs are available because they see the bigger picture, but there's so many other ones that aren't available.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about earlier. There's a lot of people that don't want to help, that don't want to input, that refuse to collaborate, you know.
Well, gratitude is really important.
Yeah.
You know, I made it a practice that I don't put my feet on the ground without thanking God for another day, to giving me air in my lungs. I had a guy come in one time, and he says, man, you've done so well through the years. I've watched you. You've done so great. And he was approximately my same age. So back then we were in our 50s. And he was very accomplished. And I said, yeah, I give God the glory. I give God the credit for all the things he's allowed me to do. And man, he just got really into my face. And he says, all this is because of you. You did this because of you. And I said, no, I give God the credit. He says, I've accomplished things and I've done it all on my own. And he started talking about, and he started telling me what he has accomplished monetarily wise. And I started just feeling really sorry for him, but yet aggravated at the same time. And I said, you know what the most important thing is? Oh, he said, I'm a self-made man. He kept going, I'm a self-made man. You're a self-made man. Yeah. And I said, wait a minute. Let's get a little deeper than that. And I said, what is the most important thing to you? And heck, he started talking about his bank account. Mm-hmm. And it was just astonishing to me that he was so into his bank account and what he's accomplished, his Corvette and all this kind of stuff that he's achieved. And I just looked at him and I said, well, thank you for thinking that I'm a self-made man, but I am not. Without God, I'm nothing. And I said, let me tell you what is really the most important thing. And he looked at me and he says, what? I said, oxygen. I said, I'm telling you, if I put a bag over your head right now,
you give all
a
that
gift
money
lock
up.
bag, everything you just told me that was wonderful, you'd give it all up for one more breath. Mm-hmm. And I said, I've never met anybody that makes oxygen. God makes oxygen. So without God, we ain't got oxygen. We ain't got water. I mean, how can you even conceive, how can you even think that you're a self-made man without God? And that was, you know.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Charlie, my daughter, she's always reading business books, and she was reading one, and she was talking about the kind of the pyramid of kind of how it goes for everybody. And you start off here, the big part of that triangle is the survival, and then you kind of move into status. And I think the next step, which is freedom, and then the last one is purpose. It is very hard to get out of that status portion of that. And I feel like anybody in business goes through this. If you don't have the spiritual piece, because that's what's going to move you from status to, hey, look at me, all the glory to me. You can't move into freedom, either financial freedom or freedom as a spouse, like in relationships. You can't do any of that without the spiritual piece, I don't think.
Yeah, my wife Jenny, she's opposites attract. Every day I get up to go fight in the jungle, and she's so content and everything. She just loves our home and loves living in the woods, and so she tells me many times, she says, why do you go battle this every day? And I said, I really can't explain it. She told me the other day, she says, I think you like the challenge of it. And that's whenever I really thought for a moment, I really do like the challenge. COVID was a fun time for me, because it was the hugest challenge that any businessman could take.
That one got too big for me. Yeah. We did okay.
Yeah. Hey, we need to finish up with this, but I've never told Beau this story. But I'll tell you, I had a little selfish side to me. He came to me one day, and we're sitting in the office and everything, and he's telling me this vision about franchising. Yeah. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
BeauxJax across the nation.
We were looking at it.
Yeah, BeauxJax across the nation. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy could do that. But I need to finish that block. I need to somehow or another throw a wet blanket on that.
We're going to do it all at once.
And I told him, I said, Beau, it's better to be small and powerful. Vince's daddy told me this. And Charlie Maggio, he was a great guy. He says, Tubbs, it's better to be small and powerful than big and weak. Yeah. And I see so many organizations out there, they get big and weak. Now, they're still a formidable force out there, but they don't have the impact that a small mom and pop hardware store like Tubbs Hardware can have on the community. So whenever Beau said he wanted to be nationwide, I said, Beau, it's better to be small and powerful than big and weak. You can walk that block. You can walk around this block and make sure you master this block, and there'll be plenty of income from that.
Well, when you're starting with nothing, you feel like the answer to everything is money will fix it. If I could ever get my hands on money, it would fix it. And then you get caught in the blur of building, and you still believe that. You think, oh, just more money. And then when you slow down, you start to realize that, man, there's a little bit of money in my pocket doesn't really do anything. If you're not in it for the challenge, that money's not going to do a thing for you.
Yeah, I've got some friends that have been very successful. Bank accounts way bigger than mine, fancier cars than mine, and just amazingly beautiful amount of income that they have. But their kids are in rehab. They're lost. They don't have God. They don't have Christ. And I just feel sorry for them, because I don't know who told me this. I read it somewhere or whatever, but it's so true now that at the age that I'm at, you will sacrifice your health as a young man to get wealth.
And then you pay to get it back.
Yeah. And so I did that. There was many a time my health was secondary to achieve wealth. But then you'll spend your wealth to get your health back.
Exactly. Yeah.
Once you lose it.
Yeah.
So just keep the focus that your relationship with God, your health, your family, all that's way more important than money.
Yeah.
However, bills do come in. The reality of things is money is what makes the world go round. It's certainly easier with money, but that's not all of the answer.
Yeah.
You got to keep that. You got to keep the mindset that God gives us oxygen, and we're not promised tomorrow. So breathe as much as you can, enjoy it, and do your best. Stay focused, and do what y'all have done. Just keep doing what you're doing, master the boredom, and just enjoy life.
Well, let's wrap it here.
If you make it a Don Tubbs window, and it's, I ain't got time for you, just keep going. That's
Keep coming back.
All right, guys. Great time. We'll catch up some more. I know you got to get out of here, but I appreciate this. This is fun. I didn't know which direction we're going to go, but I had a great time. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate
That's
it.
fine.